What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Game, your one source for everything cool in video games. Now, you can always be a part of our show. All you have to do is go to insidethegame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. What's coming up on today's episode? Here it is. It's the rundown.
And then it's so easy to accidentally drop all your currency just by pressing A. It doesn't give you this extra like,
I've spent so much money
are you
by
sure you want? Yeah, I know, man. And
Highlight for me, NBA 2K Arcade. That is a difficult game to play when it's just touchscreen. Thanks to the Nimbus Plus,
I ended up coming up with the plan of everything surrounds a tower, and the tower is where I go when the raiders come.
I'm back and I'm climbing to new heights in The Climb 2 by Crytek, and we're off to some new areas as well. Let's get into it. The guys are slicing some heads in Chivalry 2.
Alright, Corey, we're hacking limbs and beating people with loaves of bread in Chivalry 2.
For every warrior, there comes a time when a moment will decide your fate. As the throng of battle echoes against steel and shield.
Alright, Corey, so Chivalry 2, dude. This game is a massive online multiplayer, first-person or third-person shooter, kind of hero-based style game. Which, man, in this game, dude, we're talking 64 people on a map, either doing just a straight-up team deathmatch, fight to the bitter end, or objective-based style game modes. So, hopping into it, man, I absolutely had a blast. I skipped the first one years ago. I remember watching my friends play this and was intrigued, but just never hooked me initially. But man, looking at the graphics of this game and then everything that's going on with it, it hooked me right away. What about you, dude?
Well, you know what? This game was pretty, highly anticipated because we were going to be getting on the next-gen consoles. We're both playing this on Xbox Series X, and let me tell you, like you said, this game looks amazing. I mean, if you want to immerse yourself in a medieval world, this is the place to go, especially right now. I mean, they've put in so much effort into this game. I mean, we're going to get into some of the issues we ran into, as this review goes on, but honestly, my first thoughts of this game were fun, hilarious, and honestly sometimes confusing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing, right? This game has so much going on, especially when you're playing in these 64-player matches. These are huge teams of people. It felt like more than 64 players on some of these maps because you tend to be in confined areas every once in a while, especially in the objective-based game modes where you may be trolleying your caravan through the woods, and there's people coming out from everywhere and spawning non-stop. And I mean, this game kind of really gives you this sense of being so powerful yet so weak at the same time, because you can run into a crowd of people and lop off 4 heads, but if you're not watching your back, someone can come across and do the exact same thing to you and it's over in an instant. I mean, this game is just bonkers. It's chaos incarnate, but they've figured out a way to do it really well. The game is really based on the 4 main classes. We have Archer, we have the Vanguard, we have the Footman, and we have the Knight. And in those 4 classes, we have 3 subclasses where these characters actually get different weapons and different things to choose out, and how you kind of load out your character for each kind of round or each respawn, depending on how you want to use your strategy and use your players throughout these games. And honestly, man, I thought they did a good job, at least on the initial presentation, of how you kind of look at your characters when you're in game. Let's talk about when we're actually in the round, because it's a little different when we're in the lobby. Because in game they lay out pretty nicely where you can kind of see the 4 classes, the 3 subclasses, kind of how their stats are used. They don't give us stat numbers, but we do get kind of little bar graph lines, and I mean, it kind of gives you enough information to kind of understand what works and what doesn't, and who's kind of got a longer swing, maybe a longer recovery. There's things you have to kind of understand when you're looking at these builds, and it takes a little bit of time because this game has some pretty interesting mechanics.
Yeah, man, like you said, all the different weapons, they have all these stats. So there are 3 base attacks in this game with your weapon. You have stab, overhead swing, and then sweep attack. And then alongside that, you have the ability to push and kick. So this is kind of what this whole game's combat system around is, like you riposting or parrying attacks or making sure that you're just blocking all around you. It's just a real mixture of fun, and there are, like we said, 4 classes, 12 subclasses. But man, there's only one way to actually look into these classes, and that's while you're inside the game, dude. When you're on the menu, we have to talk about the whole menu system, because I find it just so frustrating and painful to navigate, man. You're looking at your classes. You can't customize each individual subclass. You can only customize the Knight or the Vanguard. You can look at all their different weapons. You have no idea which subclass they're affiliated with. It's honestly a really big mess. You're trying to customize your character, and then it's so easy to accidentally drop all your currency just by pressing A. It doesn't give you this extra, like,
I've spent so much money
are you
by
sure
accident.
you want? Yeah, I know, man. And it's like, I don't need the same type of helmet. But
I know.
This is the things that really take me out of this game. It's just like their overly complicated or ridiculous menu system. Matchmaking with your friends, man. You know, it works actually pretty well between consoles, like Xbox to Xbox. It seems fine. But as soon as you're finished the match, whether or not you're going to be on your buddy's team the next time is completely up in the air, because for whatever reason they have issues with this. Or I'll try to join your game while you're in the middle of it, and for whatever reason, dude, it just will not load me into the game. Like, both of us need to physically exit the game, quit the game, reload, and send invites again, because for whatever reason there's just these weird little issues. Granted, dude, we're playing on the Series X. It takes about 15 seconds to load into this game from
so
start
fast.
to finish. So,
It's so fast.
everything, like, all these little issues are frustrating, but they're so minor and they don't really take you out of the game, I find.
No, you know what? You're right. You have highlighted some issues that are annoyances, really. I mean, it is frustrating to have this clunky menu system that doesn't really lay out things as nicely as you'd like it to. Like, I mean, we have subclasses, so lay out the subclasses when I go to customize those characters, because I want them to look different every night, and every night subclass, I want them to look different depending on what weapons I like to use for those guys, right? And that's just... it's a quality of life thing that I think they're going to be able to improve upon as time goes on here, because this is a $45 game. We're not paying $80. Mind you, this is only an online game. There's no story here. I mean, this is just strictly online game modes. But they have said that this game is going to actually have updates coming in, and everything for this game is going to be free. And they're looking to at least double the size of the game currently, which is exciting news. And I mean, these guys have worked really hard. We got to play, the alpha was there. We played the closed beta. So we've been seeing this game progress, and being able to see how much has already changed. I'm confident to know that some of these things that are annoyances for us now, I think are going to be cleared up as time goes on. But the key is how long is it going to take for those changes to happen and come into play, right? Because this game is a lot of fun, but if you make it difficult for people to get into, especially right from the main menu and the lobby systems, we need cross-play lobbies. Let me play with my PC and PlayStation friends on Xbox. We're already in the same game. Just give me a lobby where we can all join in together, right? And I'm sure that's a system they're working on. Things are obviously a lot easier said than done in the gaming world. But I think we've had a ton of fun playing this game. Issues aside, if you've got to score this game, Nate, what are you going to score it, buddy?
All right, well, dude, this game is pure dumb fun, dude. Whether you're yelling into battle with your axe in your hand, or you find a hacked limb on the ground and you decide to throw it at your enemy, honestly, the options in this game are endless. It is hilarious fun. I really do like the combat. Sometimes you're like, I thought I was blocking that, but realistically, I mean, it's just pure hack and slash fun.
Yeah.
This is actually getting a 7.5. This would get a 9 if they would fix all these little menu issues, man. This would honestly be so close to a 10.
Oh,
but what about you, buddy?
You know what? I'm right there with you. This game has so many things going for it that they've done so well. I mean, if you play this game in first person, you're a madman, because it's absolute insanity. If you want that immersion, it's there. I prefer third person. I know you do too. But you know what? This game's audio was amazing throughout. You're on the battlefield, but you're getting that medieval music. It really gets you into that feel. And I mean, issues aside, there were some things that held us back, but it didn't stop me from playing this game for hours and having a blast. And I'm right there with you with a 7.5. But they get fix these issues, it would be up there at a 9.
Nice.
Fun and challenging gameplay can leave you laughing or crying in this one. Quick matchmaking and lots of character customization is also great. There's some issues with the menus and lobbies, but with time this one could definitely age like a fine Agathian wine.
When it comes to the world of games, I'm primarily a console gamer. I love having the controller in my hand and then facing the challenges ahead of me. However, I often jump into the world of mobile, but there's a big giant disconnect when it comes to mobile gaming versus console. You got it, the controller. Well, our friends over at SteelSeries hooked us up with a Nimbus Plus. So, let's check it out and change the world of mobile gaming. Alright, let's get into breaking down the controller. It's pretty simple, pretty standard. This is what you'd often see. Button layout, definitely very familiar in the world of Xbox with the X, Y, and the A, B buttons. When you do put your thumbs or fingers on the buttons themselves, you can actually feel the emboss of the letters. It can be a little distracting, but eventually you kind of ignore it and kind of forget all about it, to be honest. We have an options button, a menu button, and the D-pad. The D-pad is very, I would call it generic. It doesn't have anything over fancy about it. There's nothing that's really going to have this stand out from others. The analog sticks are an excellent addition. It's nice to have those. They are sharp along the edges of the bottom of the controller. That's the biggest thing I noticed, and how lightweight it is. On top of the controller, we have the L1 and R1 button, as well as the L2 and R2 triggers. There's our battery button. Our link button instantly linked to my iPad. It's super simple, and these other two holes there are for the mount to allow you to mount your phone and connect it to the controller. Quick and easy, and away you go. One thing to take note of is it didn't come with a charging cable. Not at all. You are required to supply that on your own. So right here is for your Apple charging port, the lightning adapter. We'll go in there, charge your controller, and it is up to you to provide that. It does not come in the box. Something I instantly noticed was missing. So I have another SteelSeries controller here. This one is meant for PC gaming. This now is actually a few years old. And it's noted that moving forward with SteelSeries that they've improved upon their designs of the past. This is much more form-fitting. The triggers are really what kind of stole the show for me. And now the improvement of those buttons, as well as shoulder buttons versus their PC version. It's nice to see that they are stepping up in design and moving for improvements. For me, the Nimbus Plus was a huge improvement for mobile gaming. It does come in at $70 US, so it is just a standard price when it comes to the world of controllers. There's no big shock there at all, but there are definitely a few things to take note of. You know, the D-pad, not the greatest D-pad in the world, but we are talking about mobile gaming, so we are in a simplified version of games, but we also get into some higher tech when it comes to the world of gaming now, as mobile keeps improving. Highlight for me, NBA 2K Arcade. That is a difficult game to play when it's just touchscreen. Thanks to the Nimbus Plus, it was easily foreseeable to be over there and playing that game now. It meant so much to play it on a controller, which just feels way more natural than trying to cumbersome your way through a bunch of touchscreen buttons and slipping and sliding all over the place where you just had difficulty before. It's no longer the issue. A couple other games you want to take note of as well. There is Sonic Racing over there, but it's really Clap Hands and the Pathless where I thought the game controller really shined. The Nimbus Plus is there to help enhance gaming, and for me it really did. And it took away some of the cumbersomes that I've noticed in the past when it comes to the world of mobile gaming. The struggles of trying to move your character across screen is always a difficult challenge when it comes to mobile, and how developers tackle that is now a little bit easier when you're able to introduce a controller. The Nimbus Plus is easily a game changer for mobile gaming. If you are hardcore in the world of mobile, I definitely recommend picking this up. Yeah, it could have a better D-pad on it. The D-pad does lack a lot of tactile feel, but it doesn't weigh out the rest of the controller when it comes to having analog sticks, trigger buttons, and of course your shoulder buttons. Those are highlights when it comes to the world of mobile gaming that you don't normally experience because you are on a touch pad, right? Everything now definitely a little bit different. No, I will not go back to having a touchpad now that I have the Nimbus Plus for NBA 2K Arcade. You just can't do it. It's not gonna happen. I gotta have the controller now. Take this thing everywhere I go. For me, this comes in at an 8.5. Mobile gaming has never been easier thanks to the Nimbus Plus controller. Lightweight, form-fitting, and analog sticks are a game changer. Just need that D-pad upgraded. Scott, are you ready? We're going medieval. Scott, you and I are going medieval in the latest adventure over on Steam. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, well, my first impression of this one was there seems to be a lot of freedom. I've played a lot of RTSs before, so I was kind of expecting something like that, but what I was met with was more of a city builder than anything. A colony sim, they call it, and this is my first experience with that kind of game. What was your first impression?
First impressions, first of all, I'm a huge city builder. I love these games. I started way back on PC, so to be over here doing this again was awesome, but it's in a different vein, right? Normally when you're doing city builders, you're way up, almost like a god type view looking down over top the city as you build it out. This time, you're actually almost right on the ground with your own kind of like pioneer group, you would call them, more or less. Your villagers are set out, and you have to kind of organize them and get them up and running to then start building out your village, your colony, and moving forward. But dude, honestly, it was real slow to get going. It took a long time for me to actually kind of get a bit of a hook into the game, per se, to really want me to thrive forward. My first half hour, dude, I almost fell asleep playing the game.
It is a difficult start, yeah. There's something about the pacing. I think that brings us to the first kind of issue with this game, but I'll offer a little bit of explanation on that. There's only 4, usually, villagers at the beginning. You can assign jobs to them. They each kind of go about their day, sleeping, having time off, time for leisure, time for work. So you have to set up these kind of menu systems first before you really get any sort of action going. And that was not very well explained to me, really. So you're kind of left to stumble upon finding what works to get people working. You also have to kind of issue orders. So a lot of the time your villagers just won't have anything to do because there is no construction at the moment for them to be assigned to, or there's no trees for them to cut down, but you have to go around and pick which trees to cut down and which kind of items to harvest, berries and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of things that go into just getting off the ground, but what that results in is a lot of slow action and very slow growth. even after that, you are afforded the opportunity to get new villagers. Some scenarios come up and you can turn these people away or you can bring them in. That speeds up your production a lot, but at the same time it brings about some other issues too. So it's kind of hard to get your footing into this one, but when you do, there is a lot of delayed gratification.
I think it was the lack of tutorial really that helped kind of starve my adventure getting into the game. It wasn't really able to guide me to get things up and running, as my characters would just really idle, and you're left to, like you say, stumble your way into progression and getting your guys up and running and looking at research. And then when you start to click on tabs and things like that, you get a pop-up window that does explain what's going on, but when you first kind of get started, there's really not a lot of information to guide you to get your feet wet as to how to move in and move forward, growing up with everybody and everything, kind of getting your village starting. But one of the cool aspects that I ran into was actually another villager came across me and asked to join up while he was bleeding, so I took him in so I could heal him up, and then I found out he was getting chased by raiders. who then stumbled across my village and killed him and injured one of my other guys. So you know, there's a bit of a risk reward going on here too, with who else do you want to help or not kind of thing, and you can defend yourself. Now there was an option too, just to play, so all I have to do is focus on just building out my village and stuff, so that does give you the opportunity to play a different couple of game modes as well. What I thought was really cool. The game, Scott, biggest for me is really getting going. It was hard and it's so slow, but I think there's a lot of promise overall.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of depth, and it's hard to kind of understand at first. I went through a couple different iterations of eureka moment. Okay, time to start a new game. I don't like the way my city looks. I think it's inefficient and ineffective. So I would come back and just start a brand new game, because it's easier to do that than to fix what you've already done. And I think that might be an issue with this game specifically, but there is a lot of militaristic kind of interactions, so you do really have to be kind of thoughtful about where you're putting things. And I ended up coming up with the plan of everything surrounds a tower, and the tower is where I go when the raiders come. And that got me through just barely. But sometimes it's wolves, sometimes it's raiders, sometimes it's jailers. There's quite a bit of story element that they drop into this, which is very welcome, because otherwise it's just a city builder.
Scott, you and I checked out Going Medieval over on Steam in early access, and for me, I'm kind of on the fence. Do I recommend it right now? It is still that early, right? But if you can get into it, then I think you're really going to enjoy yourself in the game. So yeah, I'm gonna have to recommend this one.
Yeah, I am very split, just as you are. I certainly had a good time with this game. I don't want to take away from that. I really do enjoy this style of game, and I'm new to the colony sim kind of idea. So let me start off by saying this game is very complicated. It can give you exactly what you want if you know what you want to build. It's for you to design your own city, your own buildings, and kind of craft your characters as they are. So there's a lot of really good stuff in this, but I have to mention the lack of understanding. The screen you're met with is just very busy. There's a lot of information that you have to deal with, and it's not user-friendly. So in this case, I actually have to not recommend this one. Going Medieval has a great amount of depth and micromanagement. The freedom to build your city how you want. However, the tutorials are lacking. It's not very user-friendly, and as such, we have a split opinion on the recommendation.
Let's go! I'm climbing to new heights. I'm back and I'm climbing to new heights in The Climb 2 by Crytek, and we're off to some new areas as well. We've all seen the lush landscapes of the past, and now, well, we're adding in skyscrapers. It's actually kind of cool. Really cool to see things you've never really experienced yourself before, or probably never will. I know I'll never hang outside of a building, and the opportunity to do this I thought was really well done, really intuitive. There's these elevators that are outside, and if you grab on the handle, it'll actually go up or down depending on where your path lies ahead of you, and a bunch of different other tricks. Little sliders that will disappear and kind of rotate around, things like blinds that come and go and just kind of give you different and new placements for your hand grips. If you've never played The Climb 1, you should definitely check out The Climb 2. It's in the same vein. Obviously you're rock climbing in certain areas, or in others you're in the cityscape, which is really cool. But for me, it's the outdoors and the wilderness, things you wouldn't really experience, like the canyon kind of thing. If you go in there, it's a good time. like, it works well. Honestly, the biggest thing for me is that it actually works. You get this sense of height. There's definitely, if you're a little nervous on heights, you might feel that. I know some people will actually kind of get their knees a little trembly, and there is that here that can play into effect. For me, the biggest effect was motion sickness. It's a weird experience for what I wouldn't expect to be motion sickness, because it's not a lot of fast movement. But it's just the traversing of the landscape. By the time I would finish one run, I'd be done. You could almost call it a slow climb. There are always things to upgrade, new gear to get, which is always exciting, but it doesn't really feel like it has an impact within the game itself. Yeah, you can get gloves. Okay, great. Really, your main focus is to make sure your fingers are chalked. That's what's going to hold you there. The gloves don't feel to me to be any different or any major reason why I want to change out my grips. My gloves are just there. I can put on a wristband. It's really just a cosmetic experience and not a big deal. You're really out there to experience what is all out in the world. When I was in the cityscape, there's a balloon tied up underneath one of the crates that were hanging in the air, or one of the elevators. So there, there's things to linger around and look for, which I thought was kind of a nice touch. There's birds in the landscape, like there's eagles when you're out in the canyon and stuff, and well, sometimes you just gotta watch for snakes. The Climb 2 is something you definitely gotta check out. If you're afraid of heights, I'd still recommend it. It is a cool experience. I would definitely call this an experience more than a game. It's not all that long. You can go into areas and you have basically 3 stages per area. So the canyon has a day cycle, a night cycle, and then another stage behind that. So there are different reasons to kind of go back and unlock, and you can climb the leaderboards too and fight for the fastest climb speed and that kind of thing. So there are reasons to go back to play the game, which I thought was kind of cool. Overall, for me, The Climb 2 was a great experience, but that motion sickness really hit me hard and really kind of slowed down the time in the game. For me, it puts me there with an 8. The Climb 2 will have you scaling to new heights. Beautiful vistas and interesting locales were a joy to climb, but that motion sickness put my fear of heights to the bottom of the valley. Well, guys, E3 is over. However, we have our top 5 picks from E3. What was our favorite game announcement and the overall ITG game of the show? Starting things off, my personal game announcement came out of Xbox with Sea of Thieves: A Pirate's Life. It's something I always kind of was hoping for and really wanted with Sea of Thieves. Wanted something to kind of pull me back in. I've sunk so many hours into that game, but drifted off. Dude, the minute I saw Jack Sparrow, I lost it and I was in. I've already been jumping in. I'm already playing, and that was the best part about it. It was the fact that, hey, it's right around the corner. It is like this close to coming out, and I wasn't expecting this game announcement whatsoever. I didn't know what was coming next for Sea of Thieves. This was such a well-kept secret. I think it's been fantastic. Definitely my game of E3. Nate, what do you have?
Well, man, like you said, dude, it's been a long time since I got into Sea of Thieves, and I actually texted my brother, because that's who I used to play with. I'm like, yo, man, what do you think of this? So we might actually hit the seas too, unfortunately. Nice. Getting back into that grind again. But I am really excited to see that story, man, because it's separate, and you're on your own server, so you don't have to deal with the trolls and everything. Man, that looks exciting. But my pick, okay. I suck at picking one game, guys, but okay. You're making me pick one?
Yep.
Alright, Stalker 2. Believe it or not, man. After reviewing Chernobylite on our show recently, this just really wants me to play more of something in that type of universe. And after seeing the graphics, man, it looks incredible. I love the storytelling that between all the guys. Like that entire presentation had me so excited to explore, Chernobyl. But Steve, what about you, man? Sorry, pardon me, guys. Steve, what about you, man?
Well, first of all, I was kind of debating on the Stalker 2 till I realised how big this game's going to be, and which means I have to buy a storage card. But for me, I think what I like the graphical style of it was Arcane's Redfall, with the magical, with the vampires, that art style. I think the storyline, co-op as well, and solo. So that's got me intrigued, and it's an open world, which I'm actually getting more into my open world games, and I do love those kind of story things. So that is my pick, the Redfall by Arcane. How about you, Corey?
You know what, Redfall was like kind of a sneaky little surprise, right? I wasn't expecting that game, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. But you know what, you guys, it was a dead giveaway. I mean, I think anybody that watched this probably knows that this is the game I'm probably going to pick. But I'm picking Replaced. It's a 2.5D pixel art side-scrolling platformer, and this game is like shades of Blasphemous, shades of Foregone. Like, this game is right up my alley, and I can't wait to play because this art style is just. The whole game is so stylistic, from the way the combat looks, some of the combos that you pull off. Like, this game looks awesome, and it's coming to Game Pass at launch. So I'm really pumped about that, and I'm just hoping, I'm going to have to wait a bit for it, but you know what, I'm excited for it. And I'm willing to wait, because these games I just have such a good time with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man,
that game looks so cool, Corey.
Dude, the pixel art, man, it just like, it's like a revolutionary, sorry, man. Like, watching it, I'm just like, okay, I'm totally down.
Absolutely. Sure. All right, at the top of the show, we said 5 games we were picking, and we've all picked our personal. Now it's time to wrap it up. The Itg Game of E3 goes to... Drumroll. Halo Infinite. I think it was clear that when we were all watching this was our game of the show, guys. It was just...
Heck yeah.
Something, when they first announced Halo Infinite, a lot of us were a little skeptical, but I seem they've been pulled it all back. And when they went in the world of the multiplayer, and it's coming free to play. Nate, your thoughts on Halo Infinite?
Oh man, don't even get me really started, but everything about that got me excited. They showed us a little bit of the campaign, gave us a little flavor. We saw not Cortana, but a sort of Cortana character.
Yep.
And honestly, Cortana in the Halo series has been such a staple, so to have someone like that again is awesome. The multiplayer, oh man, I've been talking to my friend about this. I'm like, we have to play this so much as soon as it launches. I mean, we got doubles, we're gonna have SWAT mode. There's gonna be so much, man, in this. And like their whole free-to-play scheme, their battle passes, everything they're doing with this game, man, it's just like, everybody, come on, let's play.
Yeah, without a
Corey,
doubt.
what about you, man? I know you're a big Halo guy, so what were your thoughts?
I'm into the first-person shooters. I mean, and we played all the Halo games. We all play Halo Master Chief Collection, but let's get real. We need a Halo for 2021, right? We need a Halo for the gaming we play now. And what they showed us is, they've given us everything we want. Like you said, this free-to-play, the battle pass we're getting. We're kind of, getting all this familiarity we currently have in the kind of gaming world right now, but we're bringing it into a game that's already solid, right? And the fact is, it sucked when they said they were going to be pushing this game back and it wasn't going to come out at launch with the new console.
Yeah.
But the taste we got at E3, honestly, I think it was enough to get us excited for the end of the year launch, the holiday launch when this game comes out. I'm just pumped, man. I love Halo so much. I know all our friends are going to be playing it. We're Xbox guys. It's coming to Game Pass. It's going to be awesome. What about you, Steve?
Well, basically everything you just said, all of you guys. But the other good thing as well, to me, they bought this right time with the new consoles. With the higher frames per second, it's going to be so smooth, it's going to be fast action, it's going to have everything in one under one roof, and it's going to be awesome. Just playing on the new consoles is going to be amazing. It's
and
gonna be...
PC, yo. That's
oh,
also
yes.
a
Sorry,
big
yes. Yeah. But I think graphically it looks awesome, and I think it's good on the new consoles.
Well, there it is. Halo Infinite is our game of E3. Let us know what is your game. Hit us up at InsideTheGame.ca.
Got a pretty cool one this week. It's no surprise, and definitely around here, that we're huge fans of Rainbow Six Siege and video games in general. One thing you might not know is the team here at ITG really loves board games as well. Well, our friends over at Mythic Games have partnered up with Ubisoft, and earlier in February they actually announced a board game coming out based on Siege. It's called Siege, the board game. This is a 2 to 4 player board game that has actually been posted on Kickstarter and has had resounding success since the campaign has started. Within the first 15 minutes, they reached their $100,000 goal, and within 80 minutes, they reached over $300,000 and their 2,000 people backer goal, which is amazing in only 80 minutes. And now the Kickstarter is actually sitting at almost $1 million pledged. This is a board game that looks like Mythic Games has put a ton of work into. I mean, the fact that they've partnered with Ubisoft and they've gotten Ubisoft's okay on everything they've added into this game, whether it be the miniatures of the operators and how they look, to how the maps are laid out and how the game is actually played. Ubisoft has had a hand in this entire way. And the fact Mythic Games makes great board games, and this one is no joke. This one looks amazing. I mean, you don't even have to be a fan of Siege to enjoy a game like this. I mean, there's so many different aspects from what we've seen in the trailers of the gameplay and how the board game's laid out. But if you are going to pledge, it isn't cheap. Right now, if you want the core game, it's actually going to cost you $69 USD to pledge. So we're looking into probably the high 70s to $80 Canadian if you want to pledge this. But honestly, for a good board game, you're probably spending 50 to 60 bucks anyways. And this game does come with a lot of pieces. So for the core game, there are some expansions, some additions you can have. But just for the base game, you get 2 maps and 20 operators, 10 attackers, 10 defenders, and these are all carved out miniatures that look just like the characters in the game. I mean, there's a ton of different cards and different things to set up on the map before you get going on some of these matches, but I'm telling you, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here, and that's just not it. If you're a pledger of at least the core game, you're also going to be receiving a 0 miniature as well to be able to add into the game, so that's kind of cool. And this campaign has got a bunch of different things. It's not just pledging to get the game. There's so many different things you can pledge for, and the nice thing is that this Kickstarter is going to be on for a few more days. By the time you're hearing this, you got a couple more days before the campaign ends, and you can actually jump in and just pledge if you want. You can pledge to get the core game. There's also votes for new characters to be added in, and by the time the campaign is over, you can also vote from the Kickstarter page on what characters you want to see added into the game. And what they're going to do is actually add those miniatures in and also add exclusive skins designed by Mythic Games to be added into the Rainbow Six Siege actual video game, which is super cool. And it's kind of this exclusive content that not everybody's going to have on Siege, so it'll be kind of neat to have that operator with those skins and get it for free, because anybody that plays Siege knows that those skins aren't cheap. So being able to pledge a little bit of money over here, get a really sweet board game by the looks of it, and get an extra skin in the video game you play is a pretty cool deal. So I mean, if you're interested in video games, or sorry, board games at all, you got to check out Siege, the board game. This one looks like a blast, and again, the Kickstarter campaign is on for a few more days, so make sure you get in your pledges if you want to get in on this action, because it looks like it's going to be doling out sometime in the late July. We're going to start to see the shipping of some of these products coming out. They haven't given us a concrete date on that yet, but honestly, this one looks like a ton of fun. You got to check it out.
Alright, E3 has come and gone, and we have received a ton of game announcements from all sorts of developers. But over the last couple years, a couple developers have stepped down. PlayStation or Sony being, of course, the biggest one, and EA actually. But as of late, we got a rumor that EA is reviving a series that we haven't seen in a long time. And what it seems like is one of my personal favorite horror series, Dead Space. Now you might be wondering, who's behind this revival game? Well, EA Motive is, and as of late, they made Star Wars Squadrons. Now this game was awesome. It was really just one for the fans. no microtransactions, priced at only $40, full crossplay. I mean, this game was, like I said, it was just one for the fans. So to see them making a single player horror experience, hopefully Dead Space, we don't know for sure if it's Dead Space, and we will find out next month with EA's whatever they're doing for their E3. But that'll to say, guys, let me know if you're excited for a revival of Dead Space. And if it's not Dead Space, what series from EA would you like to see? One that I kind of thought of was Army of Two, but I'm not as excited for that as I am for Dead Space.
Last year, we managed to see the new updated version of Microsoft Flight Simulator for PC. Now, the base game comes with 20 aircrafts and up to 37,000 airports for you to land your aircraft. And this got a lot of praise from real-life pilots, saying that the photorealistic graphics and the actual aircraft mechanics are identical to the real thing. Now, this is due that the actual flight simulator software has actually integration of ground satellites and world data maps. So that means that if you're actually in a country and it's actually raining and you manage to fly over this particular spot in the game, it will actually start to rain, which makes it that more realistic. Well, good news, this year, July the 27th, Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming to Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles. And to help you immerse yourself more in this game, at E3 this year, Turtle Beach announced that they're making dedicated flight sim hardware for PC and Xbox consoles. The Velocity 1 flight was made in collaboration with aeronautical engineers and pilots to provide a realistic flight experience. It has a 180-degree yoke handle with rear rudder controls for easy access. To its right, there is a modular throttle quadrant with an integrated trim wheel, as well as both veneer style and leather controls with swappable tops for props and jet planes. All in all, Turtle Beach says the Velocity 1 flight features 12 analog axis, 2 POV switches, 2 4-way hat switches and 18 extra buttons that can be mapped to your liking. In addition to controls, the hardware includes a 3.5 jack on its left side for private listening, to deeper immersion and to avoid having to push multiple buttons when you just want to fly and chill. The yoke has a display that can show stats like flight time, time at destination and more. There's a panel that can show other indicators like real-time alerts, landing lights, landing gear and more. Through Turtle Beach says some of these features will be added later by software and firmware updates. The hardware doesn't seem to feature force feedback or rumble. Now, the Turtle Beach Velocity 1 hardware is exactly what you need to immerse yourself in this Microsoft Flight Simulator game, but it comes at a price of $350. And it comes out on July the 27th, the same time as Microsoft's Flight Simulator gets released on Xbox One and Xbox Series console. But the good news is it actually comes on Game Pass on day one, so you don't have to physically go out and buy this game. All you need to do is just save up your hard-earned money to buy this Turtle Beach Velocity 1 hardware.
Alright, it's my favorite time of year again. Rainbow Six Siege Esports has started yet again, and I will be here to cover the North American Pro League. Alright, the Rainbow Six Siege Pro League is yet again back. This time we are on Stage 2. Now there are 3 stages throughout the year. Obviously at the beginning of the year we did have Stage 1. They were able to get that done even through COVID. But now that we're getting along with this whole COVID thing, they're actually playing in Las Vegas together as a team. So this is really great just to see these teams be able to actually play together, and it's not this whole online system that we've been struggling with for the last year. But okay, North American Pro League, guys. This is an exciting time of year. We have 9 teams competing over the course of 9 play days. So with 9 teams playing over 9 play days, the whole point system is that you essentially get 3 points for a win, 2 points for an overtime win, 1 point for an overtime loss, and then you get nothing if you, of course, lose. Now, you got 9 teams battling over 9 play days, and what's this all for? Well, a big grand prize of about $50,000 total for all the teams. So even if you're on 9th place, you do at least get $2,000 just for coming out and being able to make it to the pros, which I do really appreciate. But these teams, they are grinding for the #1 title of North America and to make the most money. Alright, so for today's highlights, I will be covering Play Day 3. First 2 play days have already come and gone. And really, the teams are shaping up to be some of them quite the formidable powerhouse. I mean, you have TSM right now, who is undefeated with 2 wins. And I mean, one of them was a complete sweep, 7-0. These guys are unstoppable. Watching them, they've created a format that I have never seen in Pro League. I mean, this has all the teams guessing in every map that they encounter them. You cannot stop TSM and Boalo, all these guys. They're just some of the best in Rainbow Six Pro League altogether. But with TSM leading the pack, we got DZ behind them, Mirage in 3rd, SSG in 4th, Oxygen in 5th, Disrupt Gaming in 6th, Sonics in 7th, 8th, Beast Coast, and lastly, Xset in 9th place. So with all these teams, guys, I mean, like I've said, we've seen some real shaping of the teams. Dark Zero, yes, they're in 2nd, but they seem to be trying to figure out their format and their formula. They don't have quite a set strategy like TSM or even, let's say, Mirage. Mirage is looking incredible this year. Over basically the creation of the team, they've really evolved into a top competitor in the Pro League. I mean, then of course Space Station Gaming, I mean, they were the world champs, and most of their players still are those reigning world champs from about 1.5 years ago. These guys are incredible. So you have to look out for Space Station Gaming while you're watching these games. Now from 5th on to about 9th, well, these teams are all very, very interesting. Like, you have a couple teams that are very fresh into the Pro League. I mean, their experience is only that of stage 1, and they have a lot of melding to do and molding and just learning how to play with each other, because that's what this game's all about, is teamwork and just learning exactly what your buddy is thinking without even speaking it. So Xset, they've got some things to work on. Beast Coast, of course, Disrupt Gaming, these guys have got some excellent young talent, and you can really see it with their games as they're playing. And of course, Oxygen and Beast Coast, all these teams, guys, they are fantastic. I enjoy watching them so much, and with this Game Day 3 coverage, you're gonna see why I enjoy watching them. But alright guys, that's enough of a recapable Play Day 2. Let's get into Play Day 3, because this was some of the most exciting matches I've seen in Rainbow Six Siege. Yep, we're gonna start things off with Game 1, and that was TSM versus Dark Zero Esports. Alright, so with the top 2 teams of the North American League battling against each other, this was an absolute blowout, guys. It was a 7-0 victory for TSM over Dark Zero. Dark Zero, they are a very good team. They got some incredibly talented players on their team. I mean, Hyper, he's one of the best players in North America, but today, guys, he could not hold up for Dark Zero against TSM. With the likes of Boalo and Chala on TSM, I mean, Chala has died 5 times over the course of 3 matches, guys. That is insane. That is so few deaths, I can hardly wrap my mind around it. We got Boalo on TSM, who is just an outstanding player. He has been leading the charge for his team, leading almost the league in kills. I mean, this guy is insane. And with their recent addition of Pojomin, I mean, these guys, I can't even brag about them enough. They have such a strong looking team that if I was anyone else in the rest of the world, I'd be watching these guys to try to figure out how they play. So the last time these guys actually matched up was October last year. I mean, they didn't get to play all of last stage. So to see them duke it out now, well, I wasn't exactly expecting this, but TSM did beat them in the past. I mean, it seems like with history showing what it shows, TSM has always kind of been the superior to DZ. But that to say, DZ is still rebuilding as we speak. I mean, they have some of the best players in the North American League, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the season shows for them. But alright, now we're going into Game 2's coverage, and that was Space Station Gaming versus Disrupt Gaming. Now, I kind of mentioned this earlier. Disrupt Gaming, they're a new team. I mean, their talent on the team is so young. There's not a lot of experienced players on their team. They even have a new coach, and it does, in a sense, show, but they really bring something unique being such a young team. I mean, if you watch these highlights, they have their moments where they look like they are a top competitor in this league. But when you're playing against someone like Space Station Gaming, well, these guys are the best in the world. They were at least a year and a half ago when they won the World Series. I mean, they just have the addition of one player since then, and all these guys are fantastic. Their new player, Hot and Cold, again, one of the top players in North American League. I've seen this guy's name pop up over the last 3 years of me covering this. But on Chalet, Space Station Gaming, they came out swinging. After the second round, Disrupt Gaming, they used their tactical timeout. They were forced to. Space Station Gaming was all over them, not giving them a chance to even think. And with that continued pressure, Space Station Gaming, they won 7-2. Now, although the score doesn't really show it, this was actually surprisingly a close game. Disrupt Gaming, they are a young, powerful team. Like I was saying, they can't always, they got all that start, but unfortunately no finish. And I know that over time, they will absolutely mold into a team that will be all start and finish. So heading into match 3, guys, we had Mirage Esports versus Beast Coast. Now, Mirage, like I said, I've been covering these guys since their creation as a team and an organization, and they have really shown that they are a top competitor in the North American League. Throughout this entire match, I mean, they showed defensively that they'll get you, man. Sneaky little echo plays when they're just dropping in a bomb right as they're about to get the diffuser. I mean, that's the kind of plays these guys make, and that's what wins matches. But wow, with Game 3 being a 7-2 victory for Mirage Esports, this is kind of shaping up what the entire day was like. We're talking about almost blowouts to blowouts. No close games at all. We'll get to Game 4 when we get there. But with Game 3 being a 7-2 victory, it shows you that Mirage is at a whole nother level right now, and that Beast Coast is trying to form as a team. I mean, Beast Coast, yes, they have a lot of new players, but they do have one of the most reputable players in North American League again, Biologic. This guy is incredible. You watch him shoot, he's got one of those best shots I've seen in just game knowledge like I've never really seen. He is fantastic to watch, and his leadership, it really shows with Beast Coast. You kind of watch these guys talk before the game, and they really hype up Biologic in a very positive way, and it shows that he is making a great impact on the team. And ultimately, what made this a 7-2 victory was that Mirage, they kept getting the opening picks throughout the entire match. They had incredible utility use and just clutch plays. They were awesome to watch, and Beast Coast, again, of course, was super exciting. Biologic, man, when he pops off, I just love it, guys. Alright, and game 4, guys. Well, this one was another very entertaining one, and I probably laughed the hardest I have watching this game. I'm gonna have to show you right as I finish off these highlights, because it took me off my seat. It was so funny. But anyways, game 4, Sonics versus Xset. Two teams. Well, Xset, they are a very fresh and young team. Not a lot of old experience on this team, but you know, a lot of young talent, much like the likes of Disrupt Gaming. Sonics, they do have some players that I've seen in the past over the couple of years, but ultimately these guys aren't, you know, the Space Station Gaming or the TSM and Dark Zero Esports that we know. But that all to say, Sonics really played well. I mean, they showed that they know how to play Consulate. They were on the attack at first on Consulate, and this is definitely a defender strong map. So with them having a 4-2 start after the first half and then going on to defense, well, it was basically set in stone already that Xset was going to lose this match. But I mean, Xset, they did make some really good moves. They have some players that, well, Rexon, for instance, he is, I guess you could say, more hot and cold than hot and cold actually is. He has his moments where he absolutely shines, and then others where it's like, well, it's okay, man. You can do better next time. I know you can, and you absolutely will. Alright, so that's Playday 3 under wraps. TSM leading the pack undoubtedly. I think that they might go undefeated all season, guys. These guys are insane. And the rest of the league, yes, they do look good. I think Mirage and Space Station Gaming, they might be able to give them some sort of competition, but we'll have to see, guys. Enjoy the rest of the show, and I'll see you next week with Rainbow Six Siege esports coverage.
Well, that'll wrap up this week's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us, and don't forget, you can always be a part of the show. All you have to do is go to InsideTheGame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip just like Mikhail did. Here he is with some Hunt Showdown action. Until next week, everybody, thanks, and we'll see you inside the game.